Gershenson.
Here.
Kokendorfer is absent with notice, as well as Jackson and Lubes. Joliet.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
We have 3, but it takes 4 for a quorum.
Excellent. In light of not having a quorum at this moment, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll move public comment up after the Pledge of Allegiance. So let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Next up, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations meeting this morning?
Yes.
Excellent.
Just have them come up here.
Sure. Do we have a list of order, or?
There was a sign up, there's a clip.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
So do you have it?
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, there will be 3 minutes for each individual who comes before us for public comment. So good morning. Welcome. Have a seat. Sure.
And state your residence, please.
Okay, thank you. Are you timing, Tracy?
Yes, Andrea.
I just need to, if she would like me to display it, so I need to be presenter. Could you make
Or-
me presenter? Or good, thank you.
Yeah. Not to waste any time. I'll turn the timer around here until we get it posted. But welcome. Good morning.
My name is Colleen Redmond, and I'm from Farmington Hills. Thank you for hearing me today and considering my request. I've spent most of my professional life working as a manager, and specifically in the human resources area. Until recently, my political life has been mainly confined to voting. I'm not a member of any political party, and I don't vote along party lines. I'm active in my community through service, and particularly in my children's schools. As a human resources manager, I was delighted when legislation was enacted to protect the rights of those with disabilities, HIV and AIDS, and other health conditions. I was actively involved in implementing the American with Disabilities Act in 1990, Family Medical Leave in 1993, and HIPAA in 1996. I facilitated diversity training sessions for years and also oversaw fair hiring practices. Today, out of fear and politics, our nation and our country are setting aside these hard-earned protections. The firm division down party lines is unsettling, and our community is becoming intolerant and cruel. I have a friend whose disabled grandson is a quadriplegic with severe breathing issues, and he's banned from his special needs school because he can't wear a mask. I have friends who have children on the autism spectrum who can hardly tolerate wearing their clothes, let alone a covering on their face. Many members of our community are struggling due to past traumas or physical limitations. I myself have a genetic hearing condition that prevents me from hearing well in background noise. I can't filter it out. While I'm not a trained lip reader, I do rely on seeing people's lips to understand what they're saying. Medically mandated interventions is not a one-size-fits-all. This manner does not work, and it doesn't protect people who are marginalized. Each person, with the help of their doctor, must be allowed to evaluate and implement medical protections and interventions that work best for them, whether it's wearing a mask or having a vaccine or using a medication, supplements, or even a lifestyle change. In addition, these mandates do not assess the collateral damage that is brought on by mental anguish or suppressed development of our children. Every freedom relinquished to fear is gone forever. Out of fear, quickly enacted legislation in the Patriot Act of 2001 gave sweeping authority to law enforcement and intelligence gathering purposes. The list of lost freedoms is very long. 20 years has passed, and we still have to nearly strip in the airport to get on an airplane. I respectfully ask this committee to draft and submit legislation that specifically supports and reaffirms an individual's medical rights under the U.S. and state constitutions and the federal acts mentioned earlier. Please set aside political politics and act on behalf of our citizens and those who wish to do business in our county. Please protect our medical privacy and the choices for our body. Today, the issue is COVID, but tomorrow the issue could be something completely different, and your personal freedoms could be set aside. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Alrighty. Next up. Welcome. Please state your name and the community in which you reside in.
My name's Tasha Shergan. I live in Clarkston. I'm here representing parents in Oakland County that are fed up. We're getting the runaround from you, our elected officials, and we've had enough. We've been attending live in person since June. We've brought you resolutions, 2 of them. Resolutions to keep us protected, resolutions to preserve our freedom, yet you bury them in committees, never to be discussed again. Over the past few months, we've heard from MIOSHA experts and doctors sharing facts with you. Facts that conflict with the agenda that's being pushed. Facts that prove how detrimental masks are. And yet, we're still being ignored. We're not being heard. In fact, we're being denied our constitutional rights. When you're not disclosing the agenda in advance, that's an infringement on our constitutional rights. You're not representing your constituents. We, the people, are going to do what it takes to be properly represented at the county level. We hope you support us, do what's right, protect our citizens and our constitutional rights.
Thank you, Tasha. Next up. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and the community in which you reside in.
Ben Gardner, and I reside in Grosse Pointe Park in Wayne County. But I'm here in my capacity as a voting rights advocate with the organization All Voting is Local and the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. And I'm here to thank you and for the work you do, and to encourage you to take up a resolution protecting the right to vote and opposing the recently introduced petition, which is intended to restrict access to voting in Michigan and, in my view, take us backwards. I'd like to offer 2 fundamental truths that I see. One is that the 2020 elections were safe and secure in Michigan. The second is that Michiganders overwhelmingly, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, want increased access to the ballot, not unnecessary restrictions. I think Michigan has made tremendous strides in increasing access to the ballot over the last few years. And I think we ought to listen to the people who voted overwhelmingly, again, in every county in the state, to support Proposal 3 in 2018. It is clear where people want to take our democracy in Michigan. And if we move in that direction, it's good for everybody. So All Voting is Local has met with clerks across the state, along with our coalition partners in the nonpartisan space. And whether they're Democrats, Republicans, Independents, elected, appointed, we have found a broad consensus for a few basic principles and ideas that we should implement moving forward. Number 1, elections should be properly funded. The folks that are proposing banning private funding of elections refuse to actually adequately fund our elections. And clerks across both parties across the state have told us that they are operating on insufficient budgets. So we ought to adequately fund our elections. And I know a lot of that comes down to the legislature as well as Congress, but this is just a principle that we support. Number 2, we ought to offer drop boxes that meet the EAC standard of 1 for every 15,000 voters. I want to applaud a lot of the communities in Oakland County who stepped up and provided drop boxes. That should be a standard moving forward. Third, we support at least 2 weeks of early voting. It would offer voters peace of mind. It would allow more options for voters, and it would also allow clerks to have less of a burden on election day. Another one of the other things that we support is having an expanded pre-processing period for absentee ballot counting, as well as making sure that we are supporting our clerks with poll worker recruitment and training. So these are common sense principles that I think everyone supports across the aisle. But just to wrap up, we really urge you to oppose the petition. It will take our democracy backwards and will restrict access to voting, and it's a non-solution in search of a non-problem. So thank you for listening to me today, and have a great day.
Thank you, Ben. Next up. Please state your name and the community in which you reside in.
I'm Denise Capps. I'm from Clawson.
Good morning, Denise.
Good morning. I'm going to read some statistics. The CDC found the proportion of mental health-related visits to emergency departments rose 24% for children aged 5 to 11 and 31% for those aged 12 to 17, and that was from April to October of 2020 during the pandemic, and that's compared to the same period the year before. The reasons that it's reported that these emergency room visits for mental health increased was increased isolation, fear of contagion, not contagion itself, political, racial unrest, economic uncertainty, and that's all resulted in increasing anxiety and depression in children. Also, they found 72% of parents surveyed stated they have witnessed a decline in their child's emotional well-being since the onset of the pandemic. I have a degree in, I have a master's in counseling from Oakland University. I also have 2 children, ages 11 and just turned 8. And I can say as a parent and as someone with experience in mental health, this is exactly what I experienced, although my children did not have to go to the hospital. But it's very unsettling to me as a parent to have zero control over the decisions made regarding the pandemic. Currently, right now, having the health department issue a mask mandate, and for me as a parent to have no say. Normally, Child Protective Services has to come and take parental rights away. Right now, us parents are having to go to, sue the school districts, sue the government to try and get our parental rights back when they have been taken away, for no reason. We have done nothing wrong. It's very unsettling to me that there are commissioners on this committee that advocate for women's rights, for mental health rights, and you remain totally quiet when 2/3 of the public commenters at the Board of Commissioners meeting were women asking for you to stand up for our rights as women, and you are totally silent. A lot of us are advocating for support for the mental health of our children, and you remain silent. It is unsettling is the best word I can think of, but I would really appreciate, and I know a number of people in our communities would really appreciate, even if you feel like you can't do anything, if you would at least stand up for us and be on our side, at least make some public comments that you support our rights as women, as parents, that you support, the mental health of our children, and us, it would be very empowering to us as women and empowering to our children if we have some say in the decisions that are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next up, please come to the head of the table and present your name and the community in which you reside in. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name's Catherine Kennedy, and I reside in Lake Orion. And I have quite a few concerns about the voting issue, and I'm quite surprised to have a gentleman from Wayne County to come purport in violation of our Constitution to make it voting able for all the illegal immigrants that are being brought into this country. In 2005, there was a bipartisan commission on federal election reform. It was co-chaired by our then Democratic and very ethical President Jimmy Carter. And they found, among many things, that absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud. That's exact opposite as the whereas. Researchers have found increased access to ballot drop boxes, which are often more secure than the average blue postal boxes by being subject to video or in-person surveillance. First of all, it's simply not true. We want one person with real ID, who's a real citizenship, to be voting. And if you're able to vote in person, you should be voting in person. There's no reason why we should need to spend millions and millions of other money for them to send out a bunch of ballots to people that don't even live there, which happened. My granddaughter got 5 different ballot invitations to vote. 5. She's the only one of the household that got one that would have been early enough to even put it through. Why is that? Too many mysterious things have gone on. We need to finish the process of the real ID that was supposed to be completed in October of 2020. That was postponed because of COVID. The real ID, you have identification solidified for American citizens. That's a critical thing, and that was supposed to already be in place in October of 2020 for our airline security because of what had happened in 9/11. So all these things that we should have learned 20 years ago, we just threw out the window, and we are absolutely much less secure now than we were 20 years ago because of some very misguided information and decisions made by so-called leaders that don't even read the Constitution, apparently. In fact, Section 4 out of Amendment 14 specifically says the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss or emancipation of any slave, but all such debts,
Ms. Kennedy,
obligations,
please
and
wrap
claims
up
shall be
your
held
public
illegal
comment.
and void. Pardon?
Please wrap up your public comment.
Okay, thank you. I think it's critically important that we maintain our naturalization laws and do not let them be destroyed. We have no idea who's coming through our southern border. The criminal cartels are choosing who crosses and charging fees for it, whether you realize it or not. They're making more money on human trafficking than they probably are on the fentanyl that they're also blessing us with in multiple pounds to kill people. It's just incredible that anyone would even consider having anything other than the real ID, real verification of citizenship. We cannot be just getting rid of the paperwork that says you did 3 felonies and
Please wrap up your
miscellaneous.
public
It
comment, Ms.
doesn't
Kennedy.
make it better. That doesn't fix the issue. That's just a cover-up,
We
once
appreciate
again.
your time coming before us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee this morning? Ms. Tracy, are there any other names on the list? No. Seeing that there is no other individuals for public comment, I will now close public comment. At this time, I'd like to take a 15-minute recess. Thank you. Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Joliet. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Next up, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to remove items 9A, B, and C under the regular agenda. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Gershenson. All those in favor signify.
Wait, don't you need a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, support by Nelson, or motion by Nelson, support by Gershenson.
Please prompt the vote.
Excellent. Please prompt the vote.
Oh, yeah. Wait,
It'll come up.
Yeah,
okay.
hold on one second. Okay. Took a second there.
Okay.
We have 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Agenda is approved. Next up, we'll move on to communications. We've got 2 items under communications. The first item, A, communications, City of Farmington Hills Urban Deer Management Plan, and item B, which is the OCHN Board resignation. Is there any, Chairman? Followed, Commissioner Gershenson, followed by Chairman Woodward.
Thank you. I just received this urban deer management plan from Farmington Hills, and they are looking to work with the county on it. So I will be contacting the supervisor to find out what that's all about. But I just wanted to respond that I received it, I just got it, I read it, and I am interested in talking with them, as I'm sure the other 2 commissioners from Farmington are.
Excellent, thank you. Chairman?
And on the resignation, because when we heard that her circumstance changed, we pulled the resignation letter from the last meeting, so she did not resign. We have not accepted her resignation, so, I mean, we can receive and file
we are
this.
still waiting for final confirmation.
For confirmation, right.
Once we do receive that final confirmation, we will either be looking at so there would be a reappointment, she would stay as is, or it would come back to committee and we would discuss how we would like to move forward with posting that appointed position on the OCHM board.
Correct. And the other person who resigned, that we will have to proceed with.
Yeah.
So we haven't
Eric.
gotten an official resignation letter, so we are still waiting. I'm sure in a future Legislative
Right.
Affairs and Government Operations Committee that will be coming before us. But as it stands presently, there is only one
Yep.
at this point.
Sounds good.
Any other further discussion on communication items A and B? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Sorry, who moved? Who moved to
Moved
resign?
by myself, support by
Oh, okay. Gershenson.
Commissioner Joliet.
I got it.
It was Gershenson, thank you. Gotcha. Please prompt the vote.
We have 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Next up, we'll move on to our consent agenda. There are 5 items under our consent agenda. Item number A, designating September 17th through the 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week in Oakland County. Item B, designation of National Adult Education and Family Literacy Week, September 19th through the 25th, 2021. Item C, declaring September 19th through the 25th, 2021 as Michigan Trails Week in Oakland County. Item D, recognizing September 2021 as National Hispanic Heritage Month. And item number E is recognizing the second Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day. Is there any discussion on these items on the consent agenda?
Press the green request to speak button if they'd like to.
If you'd like to speak, please press the request to speak green button on the bottom right-hand corner.
And as chair, you would submit the details and you would see if there was a speaker.
Excellent. Seeing that there is no discussion on these consent agenda items, can we please prompt the vote? Motion by Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Joliet.
Four yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Motion passes. Next up, we'll move on to number 9, regular agenda. We are on now to item D, which is the collective bargaining agreement fiscal years 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and supplemental collective bargaining agreements for employees represented by the United Auto Workers, Local 889 UAW, representing facilities, maintenance and operations, Homeland Security, Human Resources, and Water Resource Commissioner and supervisory employees. And we have April here with us this morning. So welcome, April.
Good morning. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. So we have a series of union updates here today. We'll have more over the next couple of meetings as well. But today you have before you some supplementals for the UAW. And I think this is our first supplemental, so I'll just talk a little bit about what that means. So as you know, the UAW has started to form in different departments throughout the county. And so back in December, we negotiated what we call a master agreement. And then as different departments come on board, should they choose to do so, they may have small nuances or clarifications that they need within each unit. So what you have before you here is some supervisors units. And what we have done here in all of the supplementals, the union has agreed to keep our current pay ranges with the current steps in the comp study, which was great. So the comp study will remain in play. The other thing that we have done here is just to capture some of the things that were already happening with these folks, i.e. capturing what was normal course of business, if you will, i.e., they had some of the same benefits, if you will, as some of their union members that they oversaw, such as making sure they have the same boot allowance, same shift premium pay, or things of that nature. Those are some of the things that we captured that were more policies within the department that we've captured here in this agreement. So there's not a lot of major adjustments, if you will. It's just, again, realigning and making sure that we capture what was normal course of business for the department. And then also making sure that we did have some alignment. Like, for instance, some supervisors working in the same field didn't have a boot allowance, and they should have a boot allowance. And it wasn't necessarily that they weren't allowed to have it. It just never really came up. But we wanted to make sure that they had the same safety equipment and the rights, the right uniform in the winter and the heat to make sure that they are getting the same and fair uniforms as the other departments. So you'll see here that this one in particular covers what we have here is the supervisors and FM&O, some in Homeland Security, Human Resources, and Water Resources Commission. And again, like in Human Resources, they don't have a uniform. So there was just a few little nuances there. So I'm happy to go in more detail. Otherwise, again, it's fairly normal course of practice. Nothing crazy came out of any of this.
Excellent. Thank you, April. Commissioners, is there any request to speak on this item? I don't see. Any speakers or requests to speak on this item. Chairman?
Did we already move the resolution?
Nope. So before we went to the vote, I was going to say I made the motion. Support by Commissioner Woodward. Please prompt the vote.
You have 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Thank you. Motion passes. Next up, we'll move on to item number E, collective bargaining agreement fiscal years 2021 through 2024, supplemental collective bargaining agreements for employees represented by the UAW Local 889 UAW, representing non-supervisory employees of HR and financial analyst, senior financial analyst, and financial analyst coordinator. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Gershenson. Welcome again, April.
Thank you. And again, a little bit different here. So when we did the ability to what's called card check, there was a requirement that anybody who were to form a union had to either be an entire department or classification. So sometimes you'll see just some classification units, and sometimes you'll see whole departments. In this instance, we have two different supplementals, one for the HR non-supervisor group, and then specifically a separate for the financial analysts. You can see there really it was, again, just addressing how we track their time, making sure that was consistent with the method that should be happening within the department. So very little change here. And again, they did stay in alignment with the comp plan.
Excellent. Thank you, April. Commissioners, is there any discussion? Please request to speak if you do. Seeing none, please prompt the vote.
We have 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent, thank you. Motion passes. Next up, we'll move on to item number F, collective bargaining agreement fiscal year 2021, wage reopener for employees represented by the Oakland County Employees Union, affiliated with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 58, AFL-CIO. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Gershenson. Last April.
Thank you. So this one is a little different. This is the IBEW. We had a wage reopener over this last year, and we were able to work through that wage reopener, except for in WRC, we still had some work to do on that one. So this one is very specific to the WRC group, and this was nothing more than a wage reopener for the IBEW. They actually have one more wage reopener next year, and then they open up their entire contract in October 1st of 22. So this is just a wage reopener for that specific section for the IBEW.
Excellent. Thank you, April. Commissioners, is there any discussion on this item? If so, please request to speak at the bottom right corner of your iPad. Seeing none, please prompt the vote. Gosh, that's a learning curve.
We have 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Motion passes. Next up, we'll move on to item number G, which is the fiscal year 2022 salary recommendation for non-represented employees. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Nelson. Alrighty. So, April, can you give us a little background on this item? Thank you.
Yep. So typically every year we have to decide what we are going to get as it relates to general increases to our non-union employees who are not represented by a contract. This year is no different. Last year was uniquely different because we were in the process of doing the compensation plan as well. So a few things that are different again this year before we kind of go into the details is that we currently have 8 union contracts open right now. And that's not including the UAW supplemental. So technically we have about 9 that are open. This is the first time we've had contracts open in over 3 years. So what I've been doing is I'm hoping to have the non-312, which is all but the sheriff's unit, should be in front of you by end of October, if not beginning of November. They've been going really well and we're moving along on those. And so because of that, there is a little bit of a, what is that going to look like for non-union and what does that look like for the union? So we're kind of trying to figure out what that looks like. So what we did for the first time this year as the budget process is in the past, the county has typically only budgeted 1% of wage increases. And as you know, we really tried to appropriate the budget this year in more realistic terms. So we budgeted what we call 2% in total compensation, which means it could be in wages, it could be in some other ancillary benefits. And so we are actually recommending this year a 1.5% increase for all general employees. And with that, once I'm done with the other non-312s, I will be coming back with potentially some other ancillary adjustments and benefits, whether it's contribution into their 457 or some other enhanced benefits that when I look at all of the unions collectively as a whole, that we can be more in alignment, if that makes sense. So, and also most instances, a lot of the unions have what we call a me also clause, which is they follow in suit with the general increases. And so we're trying to stay within alignment of that 2% budget. So right now we're recommending a 1.5% for non-union. And then you can expect I'll be coming back with some cleanup as it relates to kind of the overview of what we've done with the other unions to make sure there's some alignment and some similarities and synergies with our non-union as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, April. Commissioners, if you have any questions or comments, please request to speak. Commissioner Joliet, followed by Chairman Woodward.
Hi there, April. Quick question. So these people did not receive a raise this year as of yet?
This would be for effective October 1st. The folks that had the 1.5 were the ones that were all in the everybody was in the comp study per se with the union wage reopeners, but this would be effective October 1st.
Okay, so going forward.
Last fiscal year, it was the comp study implementation.
Okay. My only concern with this is I spoke with staff, and this was added to the agenda last minute, so it wasn't able to yet be fully, have a full financial impact yet. And I'd kind of I would like to wait to see what the net financial impact would be. So I'm not going to be able to support this right now. I understand this is going to Finance Committee also. So we'll see what comes out of there to look at the financial impact.
Sure, because right now we budget, so we budgeted 2% and I'm coming in at 1.5.
Right. But we got to look to see what the unions are going to settle on and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
But that won't be done in time for the budget. I'm just.
Okay.
So the unions will come in as they get done, and then we're planning, so that's what I'm suggesting, a 1.5. And then I would with anything more if we were to do any ancillary budget adjustments, such as increase in defined contributions or any other kind of benefits.
Okay, fair enough. I would just like to wait to see what finance that's out of it. But thank you.
Sure. Yep.
Chairman Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I mean, it was similar to, Commissioner Joliet's comments that the recommended budget has like a 2% built into it. This is coming below less than that. You mentioned that there might be some additional ancillary things once everything gets settled and negotiated to make certain that we have that we not only a competitive wage, but competitive overall compensation package to retain and attract workers. So I'm very comfortable voting for this right now. As the other thing I know, and number 2 in the resolution, I don't know, you want to make the motion? I'll make the motion to insert.
So can I give a little background on that?
Sure.
So,
yes. I'll stop talking.
Prior to
get rid of
Chairman making a motion, the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee makes a salary recommendation for the county executive, the county clerk / register of deeds, county treasurer, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, and water resources commissioner. So I believe what Chairman was going to get ready to go into is to put a recommendation out on the table with a % salary adjustment for those previous appointed positions I just said. So, that's right. Chairman.
So you have ready? So have we already moved the resolution?
So we did.
We moved the resolution already.
We moved the resolution already.
So I will amend to insert, there's that blank space, 0%. And then I'll speak to it if there's a second.
Okay. Chairman Woodward amends to insert 0%. Is there support? Support by Commissioner Gershenson. Chairman.
And I get. The rationale is that when we talked about at the end of last year, dealing with elected officials compensation, we said that we would be looking at this in 2022 going forward. So we'll just keep it flat, and then we'll address it for the next fiscal year.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on Chairman Woodward's amendment? Karen, are you active?
No. I don't have any comment.
Okay. Alrighty, seeing that there is no further discussion on Woodward's amendment, please call the vote.
Can I get just clarification? So we're just voting on the, putting in the figure?
Correct, so we're just voting
The
on
amendment.
Chairman Woodward's amendment
Amendment.
of the, inserting the 0% increase for county executive, county clerk, register of deeds, county treasurer, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, and water resources commissioner.
It doesn't say that for our vote. It says we're voting on the fiscal year 2020 salary recommendations. Which, I just want to make sure I'm voting on the amendment.
Sure. Can we get clarification from staff?
It's the amendment, it's just very difficult.
Okay.
To quickly type that in there to
Okay,
have it. So
all right,
it's the
just want to make
amendment.
sure, okay.
So for clarification, you are taking a vote right now on your iPad for the amendment of inserting 0% increase.
Basically filling in that blank.
Correct.
That's in those.
Filling in the blank on the resolution.
I guess if we vote-
Did you already vote?
Yeah, I did, but I just want to be sure I voted correctly.
I guess if we just voted for the resolution, it was blank. Blank is there.
Right. Oh, that's true.
I
But-
voted the amendment.
On the amendment.
Thank you.
You have 4-0 on the amendment.
Excellent. Amendment passes. Now we'll move back to the initial motion. Is there any further discussion on this agenda item? Please request to speak if so. Commissioner Joliet, are you active?
I'm active.
You go.
Oh,
Are you going to speak to it, Dave?
Just remove your request if you
That was from my first one.
Gotcha. Chairman Woodward.
Yeah, and I think, to Commissioner Joliet, this is more like kind of the policy committee and the fiscal analyst will happen and finance, but I will make sure that the chair of finance actually sends in what the budget impact of the 1.5% is to send around to all commissioners and when they convene tomorrow. And I'm sure we've got that. April always has that. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Chairman. If there isn't any further discussion.
I do.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Yeah, so I'm confused. This, that, we just put in the 0 number, but that does not impact the resolution. The resolution refers to which employees?
Chairman? Nope.
So, so this is the resolution that is how do you handle basically general salary increases for the non-represented. The represented, go through the union contracts and
Right.
the negotiation, we approve that, that's built in, their multi-year contracts and everything. So this resolution does basically everybody else. So if you're not a member of the union, where the recommendation is 1.5%, this is on top of the compensation study that was approved last term. Remember last time we didn't do a percent across the board. We did what did we call it, April? We did a 1% equity.
And then we implemented the comp
And then we
study.
implemented the comp study. Well, okay, because we were finalizing up the comp study. So this is a 1% for all the employees across the board. And the reason why the electeds are in there because they also are obviously non-represented. And so they're handled separately within that same resolution. So
we took the electeds out.
yes, and so this is 1.5% for all non-represented employees.
Just could I give some clarification on that? Yeah. So if you go into the attached items, so the fiscal year 2022 1.5 GSI recommend report and memo final, in that second paragraph, essentially the 1.5% general salary increase, including appointed officials, part-time and hourly classes, students, and summer and seasonal classes. This recommendation does not include the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, or the judges of the circuit, district, or probate courts, which are the maximum allowed by statute. So does that assist Commissioner Gershenson? And then that
I
third.
wish I could say yes, but
Okay. Let me take another crack at it.
Chairman.
So this is the cost of living, cost of living adjustment to all employees that are not part of a union.
So in addition to the compensation
Study,
which was last year, and they did not get the cost of living,
We
Or
had
the-
an equity, there was an equity, that 1% equity payment, and then implemented the cost study on top of that.
So in addition to the compensation study, we are now recommending an additional 1.5.
To ensure that to make sure that those wages keep up with the rate of inflation.
And that's our traditional, I understand now. Okay, thank you.
Normally, so this is getting very close to adoption of the budget. Usually historically, we've done this a little bit, kind of when the budget recommendation came through, this would have come through, but because there was actually some other moving pieces, the UAW contracts and other things, and a little bit because of the timeline between our meetings, that this is before.
Well, I understand. I really would have liked a lot more detail on this. I want to know who are the appointed officials. I would have liked a better breakdown of that. So I just.
You want like a list of all the
I really
categories?
would have liked a lot more detail on this, and getting it so late, I don't appreciate that. So I will support it, but I do expect between now and the meeting on the 29th that I will get some more detail about who exactly this is impacting.
I can get you titles, for sure.
Thank you. Commissioners, is there a request to speak on this item? Seeing none, please prompt the vote for the resolution as amended.
We have 3 yeas, 1 nay.
3 yeas, 1 nay, motion passes. Next up, we'll move on to item number H of our regular agenda. It is the resolution opposition to restrict the right to vote. Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Joliet. Commissioner Gershenson.
Yes, I think the speaker in public comment spoke very eloquently about why I consider this important. I understand Commissioner Joliet has some issues she'd like to talk about, and certainly I am supporting this resolution, but I am open to working with Commissioner Joliet about some of her concerns before the meeting on the 29th. But
Commissioner Joliet.
I'm sorry. That's okay. Yes, Commissioner Gershenson and I briefly spoke. I do have, for the sake of brevity, I just have some concerns with the initiatives that are I think things do need to be tightened up more for the sake of vetting IDs, and with my research and talking to nonprofits of Oakland Hope and Lighthouse, which addresses the lower income communities. They do have to provide ID when getting services, and if they don't have it, they set them up with a
if I
free
go
voucher
there,
and help organize
it's
transportation to
here,
go
yes.
get an ID. And I feel very strongly that that needs to be put in place for the integrity of our elections. So I will work with Commissioner Gershenson to see what we can do to maybe come to an agreement on some amendments. But for that reason, I can't support the resolution at this time.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Joliet. Chairman Woodward.
In the now therefore be resolved clause, and I read this earlier and I missed this, the word vote is in there twice. I just think it's a typo. So I don't know if we can just administratively correct that. Basically, the Board of Commissioners stands in opposition to restrict it should be the right to vote, not the vote right to vote. Do I need to make a motion to strike it? Or
Motion to
to strike the word vote without restricting the right to vote? It's in there too. The word vote is in there
The right
twice.
to vote.
yeah.
Just like the first vote, we just need to get rid of that. Do we need to make a motion to do that, or can we do it administratively? It's a typo.
I think it's administrative.
Administrative, okay. Makes sense.
So correcting the typo of striking out the second vote.
No,
Is it
the first,
administrative?
the first vote.
Or the first. Excellent. Is there any further discussion on this item? If so, please request to speak. No, there we go. We're good to go. Okay, see that.
Take it off.
It does. See that there's no further discussion on this item. Please prompt the vote.
Patty? He wants it to go to Lago, so he's not. I guess it would be postponed to your next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Patty,
Yeah.
if I was to press print, would it print here?
I'm not sure that
Okay.
it's that
Do you have
particular.
3
Yeah.
yeas,
That is mapped.
1 nay?
Okay.
3
That'd be
yeas, 1
great.
nay, motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we'll move on to our last item of the regular agenda, which is resolution to support Mr. Kinsu. Commissioner Hoffman has requested that this item be postponed to our October 5th LAGO meeting. So that item will be postponed to our next committee meeting. Is there any comments, concerns? All right. Moving on, we'll move on to,
Just here.
all righty. Well, good morning, Commissioner Hoffman. Come join us at the head of the table. We were just getting ready to postpone.
Hey, timing is everything.
Excellent. So to go back to item number I, a resolution to support Mr. Kinsu, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Joliet. Good morning, Mr. Hoffman.
Good morning, everybody. This is a resolution that I would like to have the board take up and send it on down the line. Hopefully, we can get some assistance for this poor guy who's been in prison for a lot of years. Senator Carl Levin, before he passed away, he was working on this, getting some relief for this guy. The evidence suggests that this guy was hundreds of miles away when the crime was committed. It was a murder. And I don't know if he's been in prison 20 or 30 years, but I think it needs to be looked into. And if this guy's innocent, he needs to be freed.
Excellent. Commissioners, if you have a question or comment, please request to speak. Commissioner Gershenson.
So would this fall under the new committee that our new prosecuting attorney has established?
I think so. I think that her name was mentioned. I'm not sure. Dave's shaking his head no, but.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends. You're talking about the conviction integrity unit, that the budget's going to fund a conviction integrity unit in Oakland County, but I don't think this case was prosecuted in Oakland County.
I don't know.
Oh, it's only
But whatever.
a county case, okay.
Yeah, but there is a state conviction integrity unit that I think
Right.
is looking at this.
And whatever avenue there is, I think it should be pursued. I can't imagine being locked up for something you didn't do.
Is there any other commissioners? Alrighty. I have one question, Commissioner Hoffman. I did do a little researching behind this, and it's pretty compelling with a lot of the evidence and just reading historically. I know this was back from 1987. My only question is there any affiliation with Oakland County? I know that in the be it further resolved clause, it is requested that it also go to the St. Clair County Prosecutor's Office. And my only question is how does this relate to Oakland County business?
You know what? It probably doesn't, but in the name of justice, I don't think we should care who takes it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, comments, or discussion on this item, please prompt the vote.
Hi, Tracy.
We have 4 yeas.
4 yeas, motion passes.
Thank you very
Commissioner
much for your
Hoffman.
time.
Thank you. Thank you for making your way up here. Next up, we'll move on to number 10 of our regular agenda, which is public comment. This is our second public comment for items that haven't been addressed during our first public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee? Please state your name and community in which you reside in.
My name's Tasha Shergan. I'm from Clarkston. I'm trying to compose myself because Commissioner Hoffman comes in to discuss the support for this gentleman. and I Googled it. It's a horrible story. But how about Oakland County? We've been dealing with you guys for months. We're losing our patience. The way you treated us at the last full board meeting is completely unacceptable. The fact that you come in at 10:20, the meeting started at 9:30, you're so disrespectful to the people that put you in that position. It's unbelievable. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you, Tasha. Next up, please come to the table and provide us with your name and community in which you reside in.
Again, my name is Colleen Redmond, and I'm from Farmington Hills. And I would just like to take a moment to put in a plug for that deer management plan. We have 1.5 acres in Farmington Hills, and it is not uncommon for us to have 10 to 15 deer in our backyard at any given time. I mean, they're lovely, and I love to see them, but there are a lot of health associated things with them. I have young teenage drivers. We have many young people in the community, and they are a great hazard on the road. It is not uncommon to come around the corner in our neighborhood and find many of them in the street. Not to mention that they attract ticks and other health-related issues. And we've lived here for 7 years, and the problem exponentially gets worse every single year. It really is something that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there?
I just left my stuff up here, sorry.
Next, please come to the table, state your name and community in which you reside in.
That's all right. Thank you, Commissioners. My name's Catherine Kennedy from Oakland County, and just in sitting through the meeting, I'm very perplexed. I don't even know how we have quorum when it's a 3-0. Is that even a quorum? Just a question. We just had a 3-0 vote. Is that a quorum? And you're not part of the committee. I know you're ex officio, but does that count towards the quorum vote?
Yes.
So that's my question. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Given that there are 4 committee members here during our Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee, we do have a quorum. Please state your name and the community in which you reside in.
My name is Diana Shea, and I'm a delegate in White Lake. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I put a lot of feelings down on paper today because I have a lot of emotions going through me right now because I just dropped off 2 of my boys at school that I may have to pull out. They homeschooled last year. They finally found a school they're happy with, and I feel I have to pull them out because of this damn mask mandate. We all know the masks don't work. We know it. There's too much evidence out there. If you're not aware of it, you need to get aware of it or get out of these seats because it's staring you right in the face. We know they don't work. Anyway, I think it's fair to say that most, if not all, parents want what is best for their children. The problem is we all want them safe, we all want them healthy, and we are, for the most part, divided as to what that is and what carries more weight. Some are willing to forego a little mental health for what they perceive as a fair trade to ensure their children's physical health. Others, such as myself, feel that the masks are more detrimental to a child's mental health and for a virus that offers a nearly 100% survival rate, especially for children, just a hair less for adults. The suicide and depression rate has skyrocketed tremendously, as well as anxiety. My son can't sleep at night. He doesn't know why. I know why. He doesn't know why. The fear that the media and much of the society has put into people is sickening. It's sad, and it makes me angry. It's not about the mask. We know that. There's too much data that is apparent that they don't work. The studies are out there and available, and you don't have to go through a rabbit hole to find that. So if it's not about the mask, what is this really about? Is it about the vaccine next, power control? But that's all irrelevant, because the fact of the matter is, it is and it shall remain a parent's right to make these decisions for their children, not the government's. The government's job is to ensure our rights, not provide them. Selfishness is not living your life as you wish to live it, but more so wanting others to live it the way you think that they should. It is not selfish to want to have your God-given rights, not your government-given rights. But it wouldn't seem that these days. We tend to give up a small portion of our rights for the promise of safety in a functional society. We're in this together. Stay home, stay safe. It's only 2 weeks to flatten the curve. They couldn't convince us to wear masks for ourselves, so they convinced others it was for them, blah, blah, blah. The problem with that is apparently the states has stripped many rights one by one with no end in sight, and we're no more safer, apparently, 17 months later. You can't just throw away the Constitution because of fear. I mean, I could tell you what I do when I'm afraid. I pray. Do you want me to be in your position and mandating that?
Diana, please wrap up your public comment, please.
Oh, wow. Do you want me to be in your position and mandating people to go to church? There's more evidence that that works than there is mask. If you care for somebody, and this is a quote, and then I'll finish it up. This is my last statement.
25 seconds.
This is something my mother has told me many times when she sees me trying to control my children too much. If you care for someone, God will permit you to grieve somewhat. But if you destroy their right to choose, God will punish you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Ms. Kennedy, please refrain from public demonstration. Is there any other individuals who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee? Please, thank you. Please state your name and community in which you reside in.
My name is Beth Felix. I reside in Clarkston. I'm a healthcare worker at a large hospital. I am here to address the mask mandate. Firstly, I'd like to say I believe you all know these masks do not work. I've seen a few of you out and about without masks. Think of the message you are sending to our children as you require them to wear masks 8 hours a day in school. Now our children are looking at all of you, and literally they think you lack intelligence. You are requiring mask mandates in the schools. They all are gathering outside of schools, at concerts, at malls, etc. And many of their friends have had COVID, and everyone has survived because there's a 99.997% chance of survival. The message you are sending to them is that this is somewhat of a joke. They are smart and can distinguish between the health department's nonsense and lack of science. And I would like to leave you with this. What has become the 15 days to stop the spread has now become 3 jabs to feed your family.
Thank you. Please refrain from public demonstration. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee this morning? Alrighty, seeing none, we appreciate everyone's time this morning. Public comment is now closed. If there isn't any further business to come before the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee, I'd like to adjourn at 11:11 a.m. Thank you, everyone.